Annual General Meeting and Conference of the PSDE. I would especially like to welcome and thank our chief guest who has spared time to grace this occasion and specially traveled for this occasion from Karachi. I also welcome our distinguished speakers, panelists, presenters, and discussants who have traveled from abroad and from within Pakistan to participate in this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of the conference, as everyone knows, is opportunity to excel now and the future. Pakistan is experiencing youth bulge for over a decade now, but has not been able to reap demographic dividends so far because young people lack the opportunity to let their talent flower in business, arts, sports, and academics, to name a few. This year we want to focus on opportunity as widely as possible. We think of opportunity as more than making a career, as letting your talent blossom to the best of your ability. We want Pakistan to be a place that allows people to make, identify, avail, and maximize opportunity. How this would happen, what is the role of the society, state, and markets in allowing, identifying, and maximizing opportunity. We request the delegates to make the opportunity the focus of debate for the 35th AGM and conference of the PSDE. We also want to examine the society and the economy in the context of fourth industrial revolution. What opportunities the revolution offers and what the society needs to let people avail the opportunities and embrace the revolution. We invite researchers, policymakers, and practitioners to recommend indigenous and contextual solutions for making and availing opportunities in Pakistan. We emphasize upon maximizing opportunity because we feel that this is the only sustainable way to address the serious issue of poverty in Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, the PSD has the tradition to invite eminent scholars to deliver distinguished lectures on topical issues. I am pleased to report that this year we have 6 lectures, 2 of these being through video link. The distinguished lectures include lectures by Professor Donny Roderick, Professor of International Economy at the Harvard John F. Kennedy School of Government, Harvard University, and Professor Cass Sunstein, Robert Wensley Professor at the Harvard Law School. Keynote lectures physically delivered here include lectures by Dr. Arshad Ahmed, Vice Chancellor LUMS, Mr. Taimur Salim Jhagra, Finance Minister of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Mr. Mahmood Alam, CEO Knowledge Platform, and finally a keynote by Mr. Hans Timmer, Regional Chief Economist of the World Bank, who has specially traveled from Washington to deliver his keynote. This year we have received papers from United States, Germany, China, India, and the World Bank. Among the local presenters, we have received papers from the IBA, Lahore School of Economics, University of Las Vegas, University of Central Punjab, the Urban Unit, NUST, Fatma Jana University, and AERC, to name a few. We look forward to a fruitful interaction among the researchers and policymakers during the presentations. We have received 105 papers, out of which 30 papers have been accepted for presentation at this conference. We have also invited leading experts from diverse professional backgrounds as our panelists on 6 specially designed panels and hope that their knowledge and experience will enrich the deliberations of the conference. The titles of these panel discussions are Opportunity to Excel, Opportunity Now, Opportunities for Firms to Grow, Opportunity for Shaping Success in Creative Arts, Disruption, the Future of Work. The titles of our panel discussions are enough to convey the depth to which we seek to pursue the subject of opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, out of 34 AGMs that the PSD has organized so far, 33 were held in Islamabad and only 1 in Lahore. Moreover, all the 34 conferences were held at luxury hotels. This is the first time in the PSD's history that we are organizing the conference at a university campus. The warm welcome extended by the Institute of Management Sciences to us for this purpose and the professionalism that we have seen here has been instrumental in allowing us to move out of the hotel to the academic environment of a university campus. The right moment to thank IM Sciences will come towards the end of this conference. Suffice it is to mention here that their will and the capacity to organize this conference has brought us here. The way they have owned the conference has made us feel that we have made the right decision to bring the conference to Peshawar and to IM Sciences. Ladies and gentlemen, the objective of moving out of Islamabad and to other cities, especially the smaller ones, is to involve the local academia, policymakers, and practitioners in the debate on the issues of today. I wish and hope that fuller participation of the stakeholders just mentioned will make this idea a success. Back in 2006, the then president of the PSD and Vice Chancellor Pied, Dr. Nadeem Haq, had introduced the practice of inviting students from different universities at PhD expense to the AGM. This practice was suspended for a while due to funds constraint of the PSDE. Though the funds constraint remain and has even become acute, with Dr. Nadeem Haq being back as VC Pied again, we have revived the practice and have extended it to include young faculty as well. This year, we have invited over 100 graduate students and young faculty members from universities located in different parts of the country, with preference for public sector universities located in less developed areas of the country. This number is besides the 100 students of PIDE who will stay in Peshawar, is also being funded by the PSD. The invited students and faculty members are being lodged and taken care of at PSD's expense. We have also specially invited students from universities in the vicinity of Peshawar. This includes a group of 50 students from the University of Malakand and Abdul Wali Khan University, Mardan. Plus, of course, a sizable number of students from IM Sciences and 7 other universities in Peshawar are also attending the conference and will not only benefit from the discourse generated here, but rather the youth being the key stakeholders, they will help generate the much needed discourse. This AGM of PSD, the AGM of PSD is typically funded by the sponsors. I would like to thank the sponsors of 35th AGM for their support. The sponsors of the conference include the World Bank, the Bank of Punjab, the CPEC Center of Excellence, Frederick Ebert Stiftung, Gulamer Textile, Habib Bank Limited, Bank of Khyber, Pakistan Poverty Alleviation Fund, Angro Corporation, and Pakistan Microfinance Investment Company. The sponsors' support show their will to support research in Pakistan, without which developing good policies is not possible. I would like to thank all the sponsors without whom this conference would not have been possible. With so many students present here and our distinguished panelists and speakers ready to set the opportunity debate rolling, our sponsors would be glad to see that their money is being put to good use. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, we are making an effort to practice COVID SOPs. I hope that you will follow the SOPs so that gatherings like these can happen more often. Finally, I wish you a good conference. We, the organizers, need this wish more than anyone else, so please reciprocate. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aziz. I would now like to invite Dr. Nadeem Haq, President, Pakistan Society of Development Economists and Vice Chancellor, Pakistan Institute of Development Economists. Dr. Nadeem Haq.
Thank you, Ji. Thank you very much. Aurangzeb Saab, President of Habib Bank. It's a great honor to have you here, and I really applaud your effort to join us to inaugurate this conference. It's a wonderful gesture. I would add that you are the first corporate sector leader who has joined PIDE in this conference. So that's a special honor to us, and I thank you for that. And we hope that many of you, your colleagues, will join us into doing this effort too, because after all, we do it for you people. It is for the public policy of Pakistan. It is for trying to get a better Pakistan, and no one has a bigger role than policy, and we should all debate it. So thank you very much again. Mohsen Saab, Director, IIM Sciences. I'm deeply grateful to you and your colleagues. We imposed this burden on you, and you people responded magnanimously. And you've participated magnanimously and helped us develop this, what we hope will be a landmark conference, will be a wonderful conference. Both sides have been working very hard to make this happen. It's truly an emotional moment for me to see this come to life. And hopefully we will make this move just the same. I've seen congresses of the American Economic Association or the Royal Society or various places move public policy because things are truly discussed in those fora. So I'll very briefly talk about the conference, why we thought about it this way, why we did it in this fashion, and I hope that will kind of tell you at least what we have in mind, and you can think about it. So the title of the conference, we debated it extensively. It is Opportunity to Excel Now and the Future. And I think we all need to focus on it very carefully. What do we mean by opportunity and why excellence? To run this conference, we had lots of focus groups, and we had several Twitter discussions, several Twitter spaces, several discussions on the social media. One thing that came out very clearly is that, and I'll go into that a little deeper, and this, Aurangzeb Saab, you should reflect on, and every leader in Pakistan should reflect on. There is, and you can correct me in the panels, there is a despondency set in amongst the youth. The youth is in a despondent state. In fact, one of the IIM Sciences professor even mentioned that there is a tendency of suicide amongst the youth. Somebody mentioned drugs, somebody mentioned various things. So, I mean, we have to deal with that. So the opportunity is the important thing. The government response is welfare. Give them charity, give them health, give them education. But as we'll come to it, where is the opportunity? Next item we had is excel, and then now and the future. So I'll go into each of these a little bit more deeply. I must acknowledge my co-author, Dr. Nayab, who's also the Pro-Vice Chancellor PIDE. So we worked on this. Let me go into this a little bit. How do I point it? Point it in which direction? So next he कहना पड़ेगा. Okay. Why don't you keep a computer here, as I suggested? Okay. So very briefly, I think Idris has covered it well. Pakistan's Society of Development Economists has been around for a while. Many of you are members of it, and I think we now have to work to expand the membership of the Pakistan Society for Development Economists. Everybody from the finance minister, the prime minister, everybody should be a member of it. I remember the American Economic Association conferences were very well attended by finance ministers, governors, central banks, everybody, because hey, that's where you debate public policy issues. And the famous conference in, I forget, it's not Aspen, I forget now, somewhere in the mountains of America is again held and regularly, and central bank governors always turn up. So it's a 36-year-old thing. We try and gather together public policy, social science, economics, development professionals, and we try and develop debate on various themes. We've talked about governance, we've talked about investment, we've talked about poverty, a lot of themes. This year we took opportunity. Okay, so what we will not discuss here, and please bear that in mind, because we hear it every day on TV, and all my economist friends talk about it all the time, 24 hours a day. Macroeconomics and IMF. Yes, it's related, just like everything is related. The whole economy is a system that works together, but we will not talk about that. We will not talk about poverty because poverty is overdone in this country. We will not talk about aid, although this cartoon you should all look at. This is from 1950. I show this cartoon all the time. 1950, our forefathers realized that Pakistan is going to be an aid-dependent country, and they have Liaquat Ali on crutches, dollar crutches, and they have donors sitting in the window and saying, hey, we've got them where we want them. So that's important to know. And we will not talk about taxes. The taxes solve everything, and welfare and equity will be in the background. Before I go anywhere, let me just thank the team. Big thanks to the team. Can you please give them a big hand? They worked very hard. I must add my mistake. I didn't put in the IM Sciences people are there. So there's lots of people from both PID and IM Sciences involved, and we should be thankful to them. There will be many speakers, as Idris said. There will be papers from all over Pakistan. There will be parallel sessions. There will be panels. So there'll be a lot of stuff that's happening. Okay. Now, why opportunity? And what is opportunity? Is opportunity merely to get an education and then not get a job? Is opportunity a low quality education? We just put out something that we'll share with you here, that Pakistani universities have no professors. We put something out, a book on research in Pakistan a while ago, that also said the same thing, that research in Pakistani universities is pretty bad, but we won't go into that. Second thing is, we seem to think that all that matters is a crummy job, poor quality education, and then we leave everything to welfare. That we should expand welfare, we should give them more asas. There was a job, not one, many jobs. The other day we discussed this on a Twitter space too. Jobs advertised, low-level jobs, even peons, clerks. There's 35, 45, 75,000 applications. These are the numbers that people report. Among the applicants are MAs, MPhils, PhDs. So we should all ask ourselves, what are we doing? Is our job merely to give a degree, or is our job to create the future? That's an important thing that I'd said there. And the leaders of our country must ask, their policies are creating opportunity or welfare? I think it's a fundamental question that we are posing here. Now, to look at this, what we did was, we looked at the labor force survey that just come out. And there's startling findings there. Yes, the unemployment in this country is very low, is only 6% here, only 6% or 7%. But it masks a deeper story that it is our job to bring out. Academia has not brought out this story, and I keep pointing out the failings of academia, and we should own up to those failings. What is the point of having impact factor papers by the dozen if we don't address the key points of the Pakistan economy? Unemployment is 6%, but look at that. Female is 10, and rural areas are higher unemployment, but we'd expect that, nothing wrong with that. But look at this, the proportion in the labor force. 80% of females don't even come into the labor force. They're actually out of the labor force. The amazing thing is that even 68% of the males are out of the labor force. So it's a 32%, sorry, 32% are out of the labor force, right? So the issue is, can we take 6% seriously? Or should we think that there's something wrong with the way we are gathering data? A large number of people are out of the labor force, and the question to ask is why? Again, digging deeper, youth is suffering. Youth unemployment rates are as high as 20%. People like myself are doing okay, people older are doing okay, but young people are finding it increasingly hard to get jobs. So once again, the finger points at us, ladies and gentlemen. We are the trainers of youth. Why is the youth unemployment rate so high? And within the youth, obviously females are suffering the most. Now here's another interesting statistic. Even when and these are all labor force statistics by the CBS, none of it is ours. We're just analyzing the data as presented. Of the total number of employees, the people who are employed, right? Roughly 37% is self-employed. People are not employed who are doing all kinds of little things like setting up a street vending operation or whatever. But about 23% are unpaid labor. And if you go deeper, females, a large percent of females, 42%, are unpaid labor, 45%, right? And males also, a large percent are unpaid labor, about 20%. So what does unpaid labor mean? They're helping out in the family, not getting paid. They don't have a job with dignity. And we don't discuss it. We think, hey, unemployment is 7%. Now, look at the unpaid labor. Of course, it's much more in the rural areas, much more for women. But we should be concerned about unpaid labor. Aage kar deंगे, I don't think it's moving. Next slide. नहीं चल रही आगे? Brilliant. Easy stuff this setup won't do. The computer should be here. हमेशा हम ये करते हैं, ये क्या किया कमरे में? You know? कल भी आपसे पूछा था कंप्यूटर यहाँ है कि नहीं है? चलें जी, आगे चलें, आगे चलें. अच्छा जी, रुक जाए. Now look at the youth unemployment, right? 31% unemployment amongst graduates. मुझे दे दे. चलेगा भी कि नहीं? Are you sure? तो ये पहले क्यों नहीं लगाया? अच्छा जी. 31% youth have no degrees. Sorry, have degrees, but they cannot. ये तो इसका साउंड तो बंद करें ना यार. ठीक है. Okay. Okay. 31% of the youth is unemployed. Graduate, अच्छा sorry, ये भी एक और चीज़ है बड़ी मज़ेदार. Average hours worked. Males are working more than required. Males are working 50 hours per week or something. Females are working under the limit. So females really are not fully employed. At the same time, average monthly wage is low for everybody. lower than the minimum wage. So everybody is lower than the minimum wage. So let's not talk just of employment. Let's try and figure out the quality of jobs. What are the opportunities we are offering our youth? What are the opportunities we are offering our youth? ये देखें proportion by, and ये भी बड़ी मज़ेदार एक chart है ये. Wage is high only in the government sector. Everywhere else, the wage is way lower. Think about the opportunity you're offering. Think about what you're offering to your youth. ये एक और बड़ी interesting chart है अगर आप देखें कि जी what are the rates of return to education? Why are we educating kids? I repeat this repeatedly. Why are we educating children? Is this a con job in Aurangzeb Sahab, Mohsin Sahab? Look at the rates of return. The middle column is intermediate, the last column is graduate, right? There is hardly any difference between no education and education. Do you wonder why people don't want to send their kids to school? Why should they send their kids to school when the gain is marginal? You work so hard, you pay fees, and what do you get? 18,000 versus 24,000. Is that a gain? Secondly, look at the last column. When you get a degree, more than 50%, you don't gain anything. A few people gain something, yes, 50% might gain something, but the gain is marginal. So these are figures that I want you to bear in mind when we discuss things. This is the other interesting thing. 15 to 29-year-old kids, they are discouraged youth. They don't want to be in the labor force. We say unemployment is 6%, but these number of people don't want to be in the labor force. They don't want to study either. These are the depressed youth. Are we going to talk about them? No. Look at that. 50% are, look at the urban-rural divide. Even in the urban, there are discouraged youth. Even in the rural areas, they're almost the same percentage. And girls are more discouraged than boys by definition. So these are things that we should think about, right? So here it is. We've got a discouraged worker situation in the country. We've got a dropout situation in the country. We've got youth who have limited ambition. There's a psychological issue that we want to bring to you. We did a few crude surveys on Twitter. It was very interesting to find out that youth themselves said, majority of them, that they don't have ambition, that they are discouraged, that they feel the best they can do is get a low-level government job. I think it's a national emergency. We should talk about it. Now, what is the summary? The summary is basically we've got recorded unemployment is low because of family insurance, because people are working at home doing nothing, but there's suboptimal employment everywhere and there is discouraged workers everywhere. And these are things that we need to bring out. There's suboptimal employment, which is poor quality jobs for graduates. Rates of return are very overlapping and very low for education. The number of youth not employing and studying is large. And these, ladies and gentlemen, frame our conference. It's no use singing praises about our universities and building a university in every district, which we are doing. That is a construction program. That is a construction program, Aurangzeb Sahab, Mohsin Sahab. That's a construction program. Where is the education of this country? Is the education to create this mess of youth, or is the education something we should discuss? But it's more than education. Where is the opportunity for the youth? So opportunity to excel, what do we mean by that? We mean self-actualization. We mean people who can do sports, can win the Olympic gold medals. We mean people who can do drama or whatever, can win the Oscar. We mean for you in a global talent market to shine, not to settle for a grade 17 job. And that's the key problem that we face. There's a market for talent globally. Is there a market for talent in Pakistan? That's the question we want to pose to you. Is there a market for talent here? There's a market for talent globally. Aurangzeb was a part of it. He'll tell you. ठीक है ना जी? What is our infrastructure for opportunity? We build roads. I saw tons of flyovers in Peshawar. I saw more flyovers in Peshawar as I was driving here than in New York. What is the infrastructure for youth development? For example, one question that we asked at PIDE is, can you set up a street vending operation? And you'll hear about it. We've done a street vending operation. And we've tried to put in street vending in Pakistan. Street vending is a creative entrepreneurship. We think of startups as being these sexy mummy daddy startups, but street vending is also a startup. And we need to think beyond education. We need to think about opportunity. That's the key thing that we have to do. Here's the problem. The government footprint is very large. At PID, we've done a report on this. We put it out many times. Many times we've done a webinar on this. The government footprint, what the government controls in the economy, is 80%. 60 to 80% the government controls. The government controls wheat, the government controls fertilizer, the government controls construction, the government controls cities, the government controls land. All these things mean that the market is only 20%. So where do you invest? If you don't invest, where is the opportunity for the youth? So that's a key issue that we want to ask. Now here, look at this. As I said, there's a global talent market. We think of GDP as the sum of all earnings. GDP can be looked at many different ways. One is GDP is the sum of all transactions, and transactions are very difficult where the government interferes too much. So PID has done a large number of studies called sludge, where we are talking about government regulation and the cost of government regulation and how the government is slowing down transactions. So GDP can be looked as the sum of transactions, or GDP can be looked as the sum of incomes. Incomes, if everybody has a grade 17 job, obviously you're stuck at $1,500 per capita. But if everybody is a champion, you grow. What does being a champion mean? So we thought we'd give you a picture. I know you'll all laugh, but think about it. That's called ambition. This is opportunity. This is what would happen if Pakistan had some of the highest paid athletes. This is what would happen if Pakistan had world champion musicians. This would happen if Pakistan had top earning actors. This is what would happen on YouTube. Think about it. Look at Ertugrul Ghazi. Made a lot of money for Turkey. It put Turkey on the map in the world. And this is what we're going to talk about in the coming days. Going forward, this is going to become a very important way to look at things. But we have to begin to think of our economy differently from grade 17 jobs and SAS programs for everybody. Grade 17 plus SAS means GDP $1,500. You send 24 people to the Olympics with 8 athletes and nobody wins anything, you remain in the grade 17 plus SAS program. Now we have to think bigger, and that's the point about this conference, think bigger. So what is opportunity now? Opportunity now, we think of it as this ways. If you deregulate, allow the footprint of the government to decline, you could help yourself. If you allow cities to develop, this is a growth agenda. This is our framework for economic growth that we put out about a year ago. Idris Saab also was a leader in that. It talks about city diversity and density as an opportunity, markets. And the most important thing is the leftmost thing. Marginal product is equal to wage. This is, if those of you study economics, this is the fundamental precept of a market economy. Your marginal product is equal to your wage. Now, if your wage is grade 17, sorry, you'll remain a grade 17 economy. Can we dream of an economy where there are billionaires? And not SRO billionaires, but market competitive billionaires. So that's what we are talking about. And PIDE Rapid, our growth framework, you can look at it, fleshes this out in detail. Then we have Deregulation efficiency, NOCs, permissions, etc. We've done all this work. It's all there. It's all presented in the PID sludge series. There's a lot of sludge series. We've got about 50 of them. Look at that and it'll tell you how this excess of government is destroying our country and destroying opportunity to boot. This is the PID sludge series. Then we've got a city series. What I saw in Peshawar, Peshawar is not a city. Well, neither is Lahore, my hometown. Neither is Islamabad. I mean, these are all car cities. They're not cities of opportunity. They're cities for cars. We've been working on getting street vending operations and commerce there, but the bureaucracy doesn't want commerce, they want cars. And PSTP is the only investment in the city. There is no flats available, there is no shopping malls available. Well, they're coming up, but too slowly for us to reach the rest of the world. So this is our city series. We're doing a big cities project. We are trying to look at all cities in Pakistan and draw out their investment opportunities. Fahim Jahangir is leading that. We've got markets and opportunities. For example, we've seen that Pakistan hardly has any markets. Markets are so heavily regulated that we can't call them markets. The transactions are so difficult to do. It takes you months on end to buy and sell real estate. It takes you months on end to do things of any consequence, to buy and sell companies, etc. Lawyers, tons of lawyers involved, transactions are done. So we have to think about that. And the markets certainly do not reward talent. That's something that we have to think about. So our PID market series is happening, and we urge all of you to join us and discuss all these things here. Now, this is very important. If you do not have your marginal product rising through education, we should stop right now. Why are we overloading kids with an education where the marginal product does not go up? And if the marginal product goes up, they must get rewarded. That means the fault is on the policy side. There's no market for the marginal product. And here I refer to the PID brain drain series. Our people do well when they go overseas. They come back, they're all crying again. Why do we reward a brain drain? Why can't we figure out how to reward our talent here? This is what opportunity is all about, and this is what we want you to discuss. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen, this is the opportunity space. Our GDPs with some fall earnings. You got optimal and suboptimal employment. If you can employ these people fully, our GDP would increase and employment would improve. This is the opportunity space. Our GDP is of underemployment workers, not optimal winners. Grade 17 versus Olympic champions. By definition, we've got a long way to go. We don't want high growth. Wherever I mention high growth, there are tons of people telling me, we don't want growth, we want equality. Well, let me tell you about equality. Would you want me to be Roger Federer? Would you want me to be Babar Azam? I mean, do you think I could be Babar Azam? Well, fair enough, give me the same as him. Damn it, there's no equality in nature. Any competition, there's winners and losers. So we have to get over this, and we have to accept that we have to have an economy where there are winners and losers. Yeah, tough, but that's what Darwin is, that's what nature is. So we've got to accept it. So here it is. Anybody who tells you we don't want high growth, I would say punch him in the face and ask him, what is it that you want? You want everybody to be hooked on the drug of Ehsaas? Okay, here is the opportunity in the future. We'll talk about it. Mehboob Mahmood is going to give you an excellent lecture on that. All these trends are here. I don't think anybody talks about them in Pakistan. Digital economy is here. The digital world is here. And we can't even do a transaction online in this country. It's amazing. It's amazing. How many times I have to give out my ID card for nothing? I have to give out my ID card in an electronic document, which is secure. I have to give it out in photocopy form and addressed form, which is crazy. Robotics are here, ladies and gentlemen. Automation is here. Autonomous cars are already running around in the world. They will be mainstream before you know it. Most of our taxi drivers in Dubai, New York, Chicago will be unemployed. and we'll have to face that situation. Biotech is here, as you've seen in the COVID vaccine situation. Are we going to benefit from it? Are we just going to beg for it all the time? AI is here. The green economy is a major opportunity. Is our government, is anybody thinking about it? Are our universities thinking about it? And I know my universities all tell me climate change is here. When I mention the green economy, no, that doesn't matter. We must do climate change. We must fix our carbon emissions of 0.5%. Doesn't mean anything in the world. So these are all issues that we'll take up. What is the key point? The key point is we really must rethink everything. We are sitting in comfortable narratives, old narratives, poverty, climate change, this. These narratives are mostly set up by donors through their consulting efforts. But really, these narratives are not our narratives. What are your narratives? That's what we want. We want your thoughts. And we want you to understand that ultimately, it's about constant learning and unlearning. Even at my age, I'm learning. You can never stop learning. This thing that you get a degree and you got everything, this is bullshit. Don't swallow it. If your teachers use old lectures, say, sorry, don't take it. Go to Coursera and learn, right? What about R&D? There is no R&D. I'm sure you will tell me if there's R&D in the corporate sector. There's no R&D in the government. I did a book on research 2 years ago, and I discovered Pakistan is devoid of R&D, devoid of research. We are the only country in the world that is moving into this rapidly changing, technologically advancing world with zero R&D. I worry about that. Our job market, we think that raw labor is all job market is about. But raw labor, is, ladies and gentlemen, is going out of fashion even as we speak, right? And all this will depend on how we change our lifestyle. It won't happen without changing our lifestyle. We have a lot to think about, So that's why this conference is here. So I'll stop here to say, here's to an innovative debate. But before I go, I must also add, Aurangzeb Saab, we appreciate the corporate sector coming in. The first time the corporate sector has come in to support us. This is the first. So please, ladies and gentlemen, please clap. "15 years ago, we tried to get the corporate sector, Aurangzeb Saab, and I won't tell you the name, but you know him, I'll tell you later. He sent me a check for 1 lakh rupees from a major bank. So I tore up the check and sent it back to him. And Shaukat Aziz was the Prime Minister, and Shaukat Aziz was here, like you. So I told Shaukat, I said, the corporate sector doesn't want to support us, and Shaukat was quite upset. It was a good debate, but I'm glad the corporate sector is now coming in. But we've got only 5 or 6 corporate sector people coming in. I hope, Aurangzeb Saab, you'll enlighten your friends to tell them to support research in Pakistan, because ultimately public policy cannot be made without good research. And we've winged it for 70 years. What have we got in return? We are hostages to the fund and hostages to aid. And don't, please, I'm from the fund. I spent 40 years in the fund, 30 years, sorry. I spent 30 years in the fund. I know the fund very well. But I'm not saying just because they were my employer that we should be hostage to them. No, we should be hostage to nobody, but we can only think independently if we are going to be independent in research and thought, independent in seeking opportunity. Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you, Dr. Nadeem. You've definitely given us a lot of substance to reflect on. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our chief guest, Mr. Mohammad Aurangzeb, CEO and President, Habib Bank Limited.
Nadeem Al Haq Saab, Aziz Saab, Director IIM Sciences. I'm grateful for this invitation. It's a real pleasure and distinct honor to be part of the inauguration of this Thought Leadership Forum. Obviously, we have leading economists, practitioners, students, faculty who are all here. जैसे अभी आपने जिक्र किया है about having a constructive and productive debate over the next 2 to 3 days. I certainly hope that as you take this forward, the discussion will be not only around the what and why part of it, because it's my personal belief that there is no dearth of policy prescriptions in this country. The question is the how, because as they say, 90% of strategy is execution. Can we take things through the finishing line? And अभी आपने जिक्र किया कुछ खिलाड़ियों का यहाँ नाम थे, तो in HBL last week, again we are very honored that we are going to go through with another 4 years of HBL PSL. And apart from the fact कि हमारे लिए ये बहुत distinct honor है, but number of clients and number of stakeholders called me because they, for the first time, they're seeing the product at work. The 16, 17-year-old young men who came through various teams in PSL, and we saw them in action in T20 in UAE. And that is beginning to take us in the right direction on the sports side as well. Because here we are not talking about valuations, लेकिन अगर हम across the border देखें, IPL is valued anywhere between $6 to $7 billion. The top players who come to IPL make, अभी Dr. Nadeem ने भी अभी कुछ figures वहाँ present किए हैं, but only for weeks those players are paid $1 million plus. But in any case, that's a side note because Dr. Nadeem mentioned some of these issues. Dekhiye, when I was called and invited to be here, and I looked at the topic, I thought it was very, very exciting. Opportunities to excel now and in the future. Because it's close to our heart, it's close to how we have been trying to think at HBL. How do we imagine and reimagine work being redefined, and how we are going to continue to serve our clients as we go forward. Now, over the last 2 to 3 years, हमने 2-3 चीज़ों पे focus किया है, और उसमें एक चीज़ तो ये है कि we are the largest bank in the country, which is fine, because we have various financing aspects of it. But how can we actually help in capacity building and capacity creation in this country? Number one. Number two, what role do we play? अभी public-private partnership की भी बात हुई है. What role do we actually play to take not only the bank but the country forward? और उसमें जो COVID का ज़माना आया, as someone rightly said that there are decades where nothing happens, and then there are weeks where decades happen. तो अभी जो डॉक्टर साहब ने अभी बात की around the digital part of it, it really transformed not only the entire world but also here in this country, because the customer behavior and the consumer behavior changed. Because for at least 6 weeks or 8 weeks we were all under lockdown. So those folks who just wanted to make sure, हमारे जो clients थे कि मैं खुद ही signature करूँगा, मैं खुद ही check pass करूँगा, मैं खुद ही check लेकर जाऊँगा, that was gone, and the business still had to go on. So उसमें जो role, and I think the banking industry clearly stepped up. Some banks more than the others, but as an industry we all stepped up because the business kept on running. और हमारे लिए ये एक बहुत important जो था वो inflection point था. In 2018, when I joined, and I was coming back from Singapore after spending 10 years there, HBL की total client base was close to 12 million. So it had taken us 75 years, because as you know, the bank was formed actually in 1941 in Mumbai, and at the time of independence, it moved across to Karachi as its head office. So it took us 75 years to get to a client base of 12 million. And as I stand in front of you today, our total client base is now close to 27 million. So in the last 3.5 years, the role of technology and branchless banking, and here of course our regulators certainly helped us in that environment as well. तो जो connect और branchless banking के through हम इस सारी client base को हम आगे लेकर चले, because brick and mortar can only do that much, right? We have the largest network in the country. We are in 1,700 branches, but it's the branchless banking brand and connect brand where we have close to now 60,000 agents. 60,000 agents are these Karyana stores, mom and pop stores, right? Where you can go and do basic banking. So that really sort of transformed, and this is what will continue to drive our agenda as we go forward. Because abhi ambition ki bhi baat ki hai Dr. Nadeem Haq ne. So we are at 27 million, and inshallah in the next sort of 3 to 4 years, our intention is to take this client base to 50 million. और उसकी वजह वही है capacity building and capacity creation. Because if as the largest bank in the country, we cannot get to that type of client base, the unserved and underserved part of the population, which has been there for the, I mean, it's a country of 220 million people, and unfortunately still growing at the pace that it's growing. So I'm sure it'll come into your deliberations at some point in time as well. I mean, this whole population bomb which is ticking. But in any case, if it continues to grow at that level, the unserved and underserved part of it is going to continue to move forward in the same regime, and therefore technology becomes a very, very important factor in the financial inclusion aspect of it. The second thing, abhi aapne bhi Dr. Sahab baat ki hai fintech ki aur startups ki. So this is the first year where you now actually start seeing Pakistan on the startup scene, right? Because Series A, Series B, even a lot of pre-seed money which is coming into young men and women who are coming with novel ideas. And Silicon Valley is, I'm not saying floodgates have opened, but certainly a very decent amount of investment has started flowing in to these fintechs. So we are also the first financial institution in the country which invested in a fintech. और ये लाहौर based fintech है, it's called Finja. तो ये Finja ये करता है कि जो करियाना स्टोर हैं उनके लिए जाके उनको फाइनेंसिंग देता है. उन्होंने एल्गोरिदम्स बनाए हैं. आपने अभी AI की बात की है. They have looked at and they've done regressive analysis over the last 10 years. So as traditional banks, what did we do? We went and said कि जी हमें जो एंकर की गारंटी चाहिए उसके बगैर हम ये काम नहीं करेंगे. And look at this fintech which took the credit history of this Karyana store जो distributor से माल उठाते हैं और फिर आगे उसको बेचते हैं, and that's how they fund their cash flow. And they said आप 3 लाख का माल उठा रहे थे, आप इसको 6 लाख कर दीजिए, because we know आपकी history क्या है with your distributors, right? And so that's what where we are partnering with them, because from our perspective, when HBL wants to work in the S part of the SME, because middle market तो आसान है, middle market को हम जानते हैं, large corporates को, governments को, corporations को, वो हम सब जानते हैं. When it comes to S part of the SME, what do banks generally do, including us? The first thing we say is कि collateral दे दो, अपना घर दे दो, कुछ गिरवी रखवा दो, and then we will lend to you. And this is a transformation in that model. Okay, we can look at cash flows, use the AI, use the algorithms, and do cash flow lending. It's a mindset shift and mindset change on the part of the bankers, right? That we look towards cash flow lending rather than collateral lending. So that is, and we are very grateful to our own board, which have given us that venture capital fund and corporate fund, so that we can continue to invest in these sort of VC funds. And then we are also looking कि जो startups हैं उनको हम अपने बैंक में house करें. So if you have heard of Jahanara, she is a leading SME in this space. वो सारे startups को और जो incubation है उसको वो देख रही हैं. So we entered into a strategic partnership with her, and we will give her space. And so from our perspective, we'll work with fintechs, we'll partner with fintechs, and we'll invest in fintechs. The next one, मैंने अभी आने से पहले सर आपसे बात हो रही थी, डॉक्टर नदीम साहब से बात हो रही थी, moving into another space, which is agriculture, because it's all about doing things differently, thinking differently, जैसे इन्होंने अभी डॉक्टर नदीम साहब ने भी कहा है. Again, we are the largest agriculture financing bank. हमारी 35 billion की book है across sort of all crops and dairy and livestock, etc. But 2 years back, what we decided to do was, let's try something new. Rather than financing a farmer, let's think, can we finance a crop? Now, what does that mean? और उसका हमारा जो एक मकसद था, वो मकसद ये था, can we attempt, और मैं बड़ा ये deliberately लफ्ज़ इस्तेमाल कर रहा हूँ, can we attempt to reduce the role of आड़ती? ये जो आजकल हम सारा गुफ्तगू सुनते हैं कि मिडलमैन ये हो गया, मिडलमैन ने ये कर दिया, मिडलमैन ने वो कर दिया. But again, you know, let's not debate about it. Let's try to do something about it. So this was our attempt. So हमने 2 pilots इसमें कोशिश की. We went with the maize crop and the rice crop. So these are 2 pilots. And what we said to the small farmers, and this is again small farmers, not the large farmers, they get very easy finance from all of us. So small farmers को हमने ये कहा कि we will buy the seed and the fertilizer on your behalf, and we'll give you those inputs. Then we will send you a team of agronomists. So ये bankers नहीं हैं, ये फैसलाबाद एग्रीकल्चर यूनिवर्सिटी के ग्रेजुएट्स हैं और यूनिवर्सिटीज़ के ग्रेजुएट्स हैं, who will advise the small farmers कि कौन सी क्रॉप में कितना फर्टिलाइजर यूज़ करना है, कौन सा बीज इस्तेमाल करना है. And the third thing is we will provide you mechanized farming. तो अगर आपने राइस की प्लांटेशन देखी हो तो आप एक एक करके वो बो रहे होते हैं. And then if you've seen in China and other European or US places, वो पूरी mechanized आते हैं and they do precision farming. So we provided that mechanized farming. And then we said we will also arrange for your offtake. क्योंकि जो offtake करने वाले हैं वो सारे हमारे commercial और corporate clients हैं. So we completed 2 cycles with this. तो उन 2 pilots के जो समरात हैं, जो अब हमारे सामने आए हैं, जो results आए हैं, which I'm happy to share with you, that in those areas, ये हमने ज़्यादा किया है दीपालपुर, साहिवाल, गुजरांवाला एरिया में. सो हमने सेंट्रल पंजाब से शुरू किया है. अगले हफ्ते से we are moving to Rajanpur in southern Punjab, and then we will go to Balochistan, KPK, Gilgit-Baltistan, using now, because we can see the results of those pilots. Now, what those pilots showed, कि जो average yield of the crops where this pilot happened went up by 22%. And the small farmers, उनकी जेब में more than 100% went into their pockets, because we took the entire middleman out of the picture by reducing their input costs, by providing them mechanized farming, mechanized services, by providing them you know, the right advice at the right time, and then making sure कि उनकी जो crop है वो right away जो है वो off takers ले जाएं. And this is not just HBL saying this. So what we also said was कि जब हम ये जाकर बात करें और इसको हमने अब scale up करना है इस सारे model को, तो there should be an independent valuer on this, ताकि it's not just HBL claiming all of this. तो उसमें डॉक्टर नजीम साहब हमने we requested Professor Atif Mia and the Princeton Institute, and they are the ones who have actually validated these results, and they will continue to validate these results. And only आपने अभी हमारी जिक्र हो रहा था, ये Tuesday को we actually made this presentation to the Prime Minister, to Fakhar Imam Saab, he was there, Gardezi Saab, the Punjab Agriculture Minister, Shaukat Tareen Saab, and Governor State Bank. And उसमें हमें फिर Prime Minister साहब ने पूछा कि आपको क्या चाहिए? And our response was कि हमें कुछ नहीं चाहिए. We are just saying to you that there is a different way of doing this, without going into subsidies, without going into zero rate interest rates, because that's the way it has to be sustainable. And we're very grateful to him and his cabinet colleagues that they assured our full support to this. बाकी जो financial inclusion में है, देखें आप सब लोग यहाँ बैठे हैं, the gender part of it, right? HBL started its diversity journey back in 2008 8, 9 में, the female participation in our workforce, so we have about 22,000 people here in Pakistan and 13 countries where we operate outside Pakistan. And end of this year, we'll be close to 20%. And what we have committed is that we are going to go to 25%, inshallah, in sort of the next 3 to 4 years, because that's an important part of the inclusion strategy that we are talking about. The last thing, Dr. Naseem Saab, because आपने उसका भी जिक्र किया है, and we are coming on the back of COP26 in Glasgow in terms of climate change, etc. आप जो कह रहे हैं वो सही बात कर रहे हैं. But there are a few things where at least you start making the first impressions, because we have to start the journey from somewhere. So from our perspective, as a bank, about a couple of years back, we signed the green investment principles and the Equator principles from IFC, etc. लेकिन फिर हमारे बैंक ने यही सोचा कि ये आपने जाकर चीज़ें तो साइन कर ली हैं. We need to start walking the talk. And in December of last year, we went public by saying that we will not finance any more coal project, not only here in Pakistan, but any of the 13 jurisdictions where we operate. और हमने वो अपनी सारा जो power and division will always remain an important part of the financing that we do, but we are going to all focus now on the renewable energy. So we are right now involved in hydel power and solar power and wind power, and we are working on close to 3,000 plus megawatts in various forms of financings. We are also very proud that in the middle of this year, we were, along with JP Morgan, we were co-managers with them in the first and the inaugural green bond from WABDA. This was $500 million. And now there is a real pipeline which is available for not only the SOEs and the government entities, but a lot of private sector entities जो wind power में हैं या solar power में हैं, and they want to access international capital markets. So again, a positive development in the whole sustainability discussion as we go forward. And the last thing I want to mention, because वो भी आपने you touched on that, in the end we need to define and refine and make a start in actually going with green taxonomy. क्योंकि इस वक्त पाकिस्तान में कोई स्टैंडर्डाइज्ड डेफिनेशन नहीं है कि ग्रीन टेक्सोनॉमी है क्या और वो फ्रेमवर्क क्या है. So we have now just entered into a partnership with Tsinghua University and Peking University. Dr. Majun, who has been on the policy forum of PBOC and is the head of climate change for China. We are very grateful to him that we are going to be working very closely with him and his team. And we have invited the State Bank of Pakistan to work with us in developing the green taxonomy framework as we move forward. So I just wanted to give a few examples of what Dr. Nadeem was mentioning in terms of thinking differently, in terms of having the right ambition, in terms of sort of walking the talk. And again, I certainly hope that in the next sort of 2 to 3 days, as you deliberate, कि इसमें ये चीज़ें जो इस वक्त मुल्क में हो रही हैं, I mean, there are few things, and Dr. Saab is right. I mean, most of our discussions is कि IMF हो रहा है, नहीं हो रहा, कब हो रहा है. But our issues are structural, and with those structural issues, it's not a question of 2 to 3 year fund program. It's a question of a multi-year journey, and all of us need to participate and look beyond our bottom line for this year and next year. And really focus on this capacity building and capacity creation. Gentlemen, I wish you all the very best for a very successful conference. To all the participants here, once again, a huge honor for me to be here this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I would request the fact, thank you again if I was not audible. So thank you once again. I request all the distinguished guests, along with the faculty IM Sciences, faculty PIDE, faculty of other universities who have joined us, to please join us for tea. The students, please remain with me being your teacher, because there is an additional information that we would be sharing. Once I share that information, we will definitely go for tea. So I repeat this again, faculties, the distinguished faculties and the guests will be using the door on my left side, and they'll leave for tea first. Additional information to be shared with the visiting students who are our guests and will be our guests for the coming 3 days. So please kindly be seated. So guests and faculties towards the door on my right side. Thank you very much.
Dear guests and students, the next session would begin at 5:30, and Dr. Nadeemul Haq would like to specially talk to the students. So all students, please be here at 5:30. Thank you.